I'm going to go ahead and mute now.
Welcome to episode 15 of the Nintendo Newscast. This week's guest is Ricky Berg. Introducing your hosts, Happily Candied and Amiibo Jason.
Good evening, Nintendo fans. How the heck is it going, everybody? How the heck is it going? It's Amiibo Jason here, as always, with one of my favorite people of all time, my number one. I can't call you. I can't say my number two.
No,
I'm not allowed to say that.
I get offended. Even in the test runs, he calls me number two, and I'll be in the background, and he'll just hear me go, "Really? Still number two after all this time?"
You know, I'm sorry, but who the heck are you?
I am Lauren, also known as Happily Candied.
Boy, oh boy, we are on our third week of doing consecutive podcasts.
Yes.
And we're doing them all live now. Live podcasts. Super, super fun.
Yes.
I'm so happy we're doing these live. I think it's more engaging for everybody. Yeah. I think it's a good time for all people involved. And we have so much Nintendo news to cover. I think it just makes it easier for us to do that too.
It
because
does.
I think we all know with the Wii U, it was slim pickings. We can't have a whole podcast about...
Understatement.
I know. We can't have a whole podcast on, Paper Mario Color Splash, even though I'd like to try.
Yeah.
I just don't think we can pull it off.
We could do it.
I do want to preface before we start this newscast that I am still getting over laryngitis. I may cough somewhat during this. I'm going to do my best not to be too bad.
He needs a little leeway, so definitely give that to him throughout the night.
So I will be drinking a lot of coffee and water throughout the evening.
There's a water station set up right here.
There is a water station. And one more thing before we introduce our fantastic guest, and let me tell you, he is fantastic.
He is truly fantastic, and I'm very excited to have him on here.
One of the coolest people in the entire world. I do want to point out that if any of you lovely people have iTunes or have listened to our podcast on iTunes, if you want to help us, if you want to help support this show and you don't subscribe to us on iTunes yet on our podcast, you can find it by going to iTunes and search for the Nintendo Newscast. You can subscribe, and even better, if you could leave a review saying how much you love us.
Oh,
or how much you don't love us.
I would love that.
Preferably how much you love us.
Yes.
That would help us tremendously.
And sorry, Ricky, before we jump in here and introduce our guest, I just want to say that if you have any questions at all, we are not directly going to be responding to people in chat. Please direct them to Ben Frazzetti, who is a writer for Nintendo Wire. He is the mod tonight, so definitely, feel free to chat with him in there and ask any questions that you have, and he'd be happy to answer them for you.
I am just letting everybody on Twitter know that we are live, and that's the only thing we have to do to get ready for this. It sounds like our audio is doing really well, too, so I think we're good to go on that front. But now, without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, you might know him as one of the writers at NintendoWire.com, the one and only Ricky Berg. Ricky Berg, how the heck are you doing?
What's up, party people? I'm doing fantastic, and I'm happy to be here with you, too, to talk about not just Nintendo, but a certain other little series that I love.
Oh, what could that be?
What are we talking about tonight? I have no idea.
What could we be talking about? Why, only Fire Emblem, of course.
Oh my god.
Oh,
I forgot it was a Fire Emblem night. I don't know the first thing.
Oh, man. Well, then you are lucky that you called me in here, because I know a thing or 20 about Fire Emblem.
A thing or 20 about Fire Emblem.
He is one of our resident experts at Nintendo Wire when it comes to Fire Emblem. So we are so excited to learn from you tonight, Ricky.
Please, oh please.
Yeah.
Please, oh please.
But there is amiibo stuff we get to talk about too, and I think we can cover a lot of bases with that. And for some reason, I think for the live broadcast, Ricky, can you move your camera down just a little bit? Yeah. Not like a crazy amount. There. Oh, there's that beautiful face.
Oh, ooh, look at that.
That is so much better. But before we get into too much, I think a lot of people already know this, but if you are new to the Nintendo Newscast or new to Nintendo Wire, you might not know this.
Oh, yes.
Ricky happens to be in Japan, which you can tell by that amazing shelf in the background.
Yes.
It's obviously Japanese
It's
craftsmanship.
very Japanese.
I've said that. I think I've used
Every
that
time.
joke last time
I
too.
think the last two times.
I am
And
unoriginal.
it never gets old.
Thank you.
It doesn't.
It's the best I can do. But we had really no issues getting our Switch pre-orders here in the U.S. because we got them right away.
Yeah.
And you can see that we have some Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild footage playing there. I picked up the Master Edition. There was a collector's edition or a special edition as well that didn't sell out quite as quickly, but it was still, it went pretty quick. But you're in Japan, and we've seen the photos. We saw like photos of crazy lines for pre-orders. I'm really curious what your experience was like in Japan pre-ordering the Switch.
All right. Well, the first thing I tried was to order one online the day that they went up. During the initial presentation, they announced quite clearly that pre-orders were going to start on a certain day, which I believe was the 21st. And so unlike in America, where it was kind of, you got to keep your eye on like Amazon, Best Buy, GameStop to see if you can catch a Switch order once it opens up.
Yeah.
I knew exactly when I had to be on and ready. And so once that time came, I'm looking at the few electronics retailers that I really know and that are localized here. And those pages were absolutely just bogged down by traffic.
Yeah.
They would not work. Anytime I would refresh them, I would get a specialized message, not a general server warning or anything.
Yeah.
We're sorry, Switch orders are too heavy right now, basically. So they had that prepped and ready, and I was not able to get one online. I did manage to get it into my cart like once or twice.
Yeah.
The neon one was impossible. The gray one was the one that I almost got via online. So at that point, I decided I'm just going to go to a store. So I went out and braved the sub-freezing temperatures of a Sapporo winter to go and pre-order a Switch.
Bless your heart, Ricky.
I do it for you guys. And thankfully, I get out there, and it was actually very smooth once I got into the store. I kind of planned ahead. I went to a store that just opened maybe a few weeks ago, so I figured they wouldn't be as busy. And I was able to order a Neon Switch, no problem. They had orders for the Japanese collector's edition of Breath of the Wild open and ready. And also, basically everything from the launch lineup was ready to go. I didn't look into accessories too much. I just wanted to focus on getting the system for right now. But I'm thinking that I might pick up a Pro Controller, though that looks like that's a little dicey in America, at least at the moment. So I'm definitely curious to see how that translates over here. That said, I went to another retailer to kind of see what the situation was, and they actually had signage up pointing out that when the orders had opened up that morning, where people could line up. So there was definitely a turnout for it, and there's actually been photos around more down in the mainland over near Tokyo and the more busier areas. Thankfully, I'm in kind of a smaller, more mellow city, and there were lines out the doors. There were people desperately trying to get it. I remember reading a report that maybe 80% of the initial shipment has been pre-ordered at this point.
I saw that too, which is, when I see that number, it makes me incredibly happy. I've shared this story once before, but I remember with the Wii U, pre-orders were just, nobody seemed to care, at least at my GameStop. So it's really nice to see that these things are selling out. Obviously, it's important to note that I'm not saying I'm happy if people can't get them.
Yes.
But I'm happy that Nintendo has a hot little product on their hand right now. But I'm excited. I definitely am excited.
It's refreshing to see people scramble. I know that it is, because I know you've been comparing this excitement and the frenzy to Amiibo.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something that everybody's missed a little bit.
I think so too.
Yeah.
My pre-order adventure was nowhere near yours.
Yeah, right.
I clicked a button, and then I clicked another button, and then the Zelda pre-orders went up, and I clicked a button again. And then the Pro controllers went up, and I clicked a third button. And they're all going to be delivered.
That is awesome. I'm glad that went smoothly.
Easy.
Almost too easy.
I even managed a US Master Edition because I didn't really know what the situation on that one was going to be. So that'll get delivered to my American address, thankfully. But I got to figure out another plan for playing the game because I'm not going to pass up playing Breath of the Wild day one on my Switch.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to note at this point when we're on this subject, again, Ricky is in Japan, so these things are not region locked, but there is a lot of uncertainty right now about what the audio situation is going to be like.
Yeah.
we initially thought there was going to be dual audio, something that you could just swap in the settings where you can go from English to Japanese, and that has been at least confirmed not to be the case.
Okay.
What I understand now, if you swap out into like a Japanese account, which I hear is pretty simple, it's essentially just logging out of your user profile, going into a Japanese user profile.
That's easy.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I heard that you'll have the option for Japanese audio, but then I'm also hearing that you might not. So I have no idea what the heck is going on with this one. How many audio tracks are going to be on the card itself?
Yeah.
You'd think Nintendo would be a little bit more concerned about like conserving space on it. So why would they throw like a dozen languages on it? I think it's going to be one of these things that we're not going to know until the review copies start coming in. So, Ricky, I'm hoping that you get to play this day one with little issue.
Yeah, me too. Even if I were in a situation where I had Japanese audio and English text, that would be fine. If I were in a situation where I had English text and English audio, that'd be fine. But with how much heavier the story is going to be this time around, and with this is uncharted territory for Zelda, I'm not going to be able to kind of feel my way through. I played through Pokemon Moon all in Japanese just fine, but that's a more simplistic game. I don't think it's going to be that smooth for Zelda, so I definitely want the English text option. So we'll see what happens.
Cross your fingers.
I was going to say, especially because Pokemon, you have that set basic formula, really, playing throughout the game. And I know with Zelda now, they're trying to introduce us to a brand new type of experience. So I can imagine that being a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I wouldn't even try. Even though I did play through Final Fantasy 13 like completely in Japanese.
No, but you said that you had the help of a community online.
I did. That's true.
That makes a
big
difference. Yeah.
But there you have it. We are going to be moving into another territory right now.
Yes, this is the one that Ricky is excited about.
This is the one I'm a little terrified about. Full disclaimer, folks.
Yes.
Full disclaimer. I am a Nintendo fan. I love Nintendo. I have picked up Fire Emblem games in the past. I have never beaten one. Never once. I am doing my darndest right now to get ready for the mobile game.
Yes.
Because that's going to be my first like real experience with it, and I'm going to do my best to have like all my ducks in a row before that game comes out.
And I don't think you have to. It's nothing to be embarrassed about.
I'm just so embarrassed.
One of the series that I was very uneducated about before I started editing articles about it with the rest of the team was Metroid, and I was very unfamiliar with it. I feel a lot more confident though about my knowledge of the series, even just the basics now. And I feel like after our discussion with Ricky tonight, I'm going to feel the same way about Fire Emblem.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I do want to point out though the game that I'm least intimidated by is Fire Emblem Warriors coming to the Nintendo Switch and the 3DS later this year.
That, yeah.
I'm not too worried about that one, only because I am very, very familiar with Hyrule Warriors. I've played the crap out of that game. I played it on 3DS. I played it on Wii U.
Yeah.
I loved it to death, but I was obviously a major Zelda fan.
Yes.
But you don't need to be a Zelda fan to like appreciate that type of game.
No, not at all.
But we did get our first extended look at Fire Emblem Warriors during the Fire Emblem Direct that took place, what was that, last week now?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was last week.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, really.
So we had our first look at that. I'm going to hand the mic over to Ricky here on this one to give us his first impression, because there's things in the trailer that apparently you told me are significant that I'm like, what? Why is this significant in any way?
All right, yeah. So actually, Ben wrote up a fantastic little breakdown of this himself, so kudos to him there. But when it comes to the trailer, in particular the extended trailer, we do get some great ideas about what we can expect from Fire Emblem Warriors. So the first thing is we actually see the Fire Emblem itself. That's that array. It looks kind of like a shield with those colored orbs in it. And each of those colored orbs shows off a weapon that fans of this series will probably recognize. First and foremost, we see the Falcon, which is going to be the weapon that Chrom then draws later in the trailer. So that is a very distinct weapon for Awakening. And then we see not one, not two, but three weapons that are probably from Fates that represent Corrin, Ryoma, and Xander. So each of their signature weapons names show up. Because we're still waiting, right?
Because Corrin's an amiibo, thank you.
That's right. And the last one is we see Marth's version of the Falcon, which is the same sword that I mentioned for Chrom, but they are not the same weapons. This has to do with alternate timelines, alternate dimensions, all kinds of different lore stuff. But the bottom line is it points to expecting those characters playing a role in the game, which isn't too far-fetched. They're all pretty either they're pretty significant within their own games or the series as a whole. They're all recognizable, so I'd welcome all of them. And while there is definitely room for some more specialized characters to come in, as we actually wrote up a list of characters we want to see come in that flow along with that, I think the safest bets are going to be the Lord characters, kind of the main marquee blue-haired swordsmen for the games.
So let me ask you this, and
yeah.
Not being a Fire Emblem fan, I'm really curious to see what you're a lifelong fan of this series, so
that's right.
I think it's gonna be a little bit more impactful coming from you. A lot of people had complaints about Hyrule Warriors because they considered it a button masher. Fire Emblem, from what I understand at this point, has obviously a huge kind of what's what I'm looking for? Tactical. It's like a tactical experience.
It's an
turn-based.
It's an art form in itself, and because I played a small portion of Awakening months after it had come out, and I loved it, but I got obsessed with another game, so I got kind of sidetracked. But that one, I actually really enjoyed that. It is definitely, it gets more and more complicated though as you go along. And I'm guessing that's one thing that you really like about it, Ricky.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering at this point, because Hyrule Warriors was such a departure from the gameplay of The Legend of Zelda, but most Zelda fans still embraced it. But again, Fire Emblem fans are, unlike most fans that I know, like they know the lore of absolutely everything. And most Zelda fans, they're not going to know like the names of like the 3 goddesses. They're not going to know like all the lore, like the entire Hyrule Historia, the split timelines. They're not going to know most of that. But all of the Fire Emblem fans I know are rabid fans.
Yeah.
So how do you feel as a rabid Fire Emblem fan of this great departure from what you have to this?
Oh, and really quick too, do you believe that there is an art form to the type of button mashing that that other people say that there is with these Warriors games?
Well, there's definitely a way that you can play these games well. I'm actually a fan of the Warriors series as well, so Hyrule Warriors was a great thing for me to pick up. I'm excited that we're getting Dragon Quest Warriors on the Switch. So things like that, I don't have a personal problem with them. But I can definitely see, especially with Fire Emblem being a series where you plan every move carefully, you dissect your units, and you need to know this is what they can do here. I can move this magic user here, but I might get counterattacked, so I might want to move over a knight to cover them. Things like that. That's not going to really play into the Warriors gameplay style. So I can see that people would be a little upset where they'd lose what makes a Fire Emblem game just exhilarating to play through. But true to form, it's going to have these characters be the main attraction. We're going to get to see the lore. We're going to get to see what these supports that everybody loves. Those are going to be played out in a new and different way. I don't think we're going to need to worry about those falling away. But if all you like about Fire Emblem is the tactical gameplay of it, you're missing out on a big part of what I love about it too, which is those character interactions.
The convoluted character interactions. The petting mini games.
I'll go into this more later on, but I was doing some research for something completely kind of ridiculous the other day, but it was about Fire Emblem, and I was going into the biographies of all these different characters and the connections, that the stories that are formed in between pairs of characters and then those that branch off to other characters. It's incredible with the tapestry that's been painted.
I ain't got time for that, man.
It was so much fun to do. You know what, as much as I don't know about the series, I loved reading about the drama that goes on between people, and if obviously a character dies, what could happen, what could spawn from that incident, and it's a very unique way of designing a game.
I was actually looking for my stylus right now because I could give you guys an idea of what you can do in the games. Imagine that Poochie is a stylus. You pet the face.
I'm not
face.
Appreciating this.
You pet the face. Oh. No, in the game you like this. This. I think this is the first time a Poochie has ever been used for face petting, by the way.
Yes, thank you. Ricky, he was rubbing Poochie on my face and it was making me uncomfortable.
I'm really, really sorry that you had to see that. But Poochie is okay, folks. Poochie's okay. We're going to get into Poochie later. But yeah, again, it's so convoluted to me. I'm going to do my darndest to try to get into it.
Yeah.
Like, But most of Fire Emblem feels like a dating sim, because I have friends who have like streams that do streams for Fire Emblem. Like they go through the entire game, like all the story arcs, and every one of their titles on YouTube is like, we try to marry somebody today, or we go on a date, or something like that. And I'm like, what?
Ricky, how do you get into this? Do you get into that sense of Fire Emblem when you play?
Yo, okay, so Awakening shipping was like a hobby of mine when that game came out, because that was something that hadn't been in any of the localized Fire Emblem titles, at least in that form. The support system has been around in pretty much, I believe, all of the ones that have come out in America. But when it comes to being able to marry the units, and then you have offspring come from that, and those become playable units, and they all have their own stories, and they have unique relationships depending on how the parents were chosen, that adds so much more to the game. That's, even if you're only into the character relationship aspect of it, sure, that's fine. But there's actually a lot of deep tactical reasons why you would want to marry certain characters to other ones, and how you would want to pass on skills, how you want to pass on stats, because all that is tied into it. Fire Emblem is the best eugenics simulator I've ever played. So it's definitely the type of...
so cool.
So you could go like full on Hitler with it if you wanted to.
You could definitely decide, no, I think that the interactions between you two are fantastic, but you are going to marry this character instead. Like, I don't play it that way because I believe more in playing through
love.
Yes, love is important.
He believes in love, folks.
I like that.
Bless your heart, Ricky.
I think a big part of that is it gives the player a bigger level of control over the game. Something that I have a hard time grasping, and I have ever since I was younger, was with a lot of games, from Zelda to other basic RPG games, my favorites from the SNES days. Everything is very linear, and you pretty much have to follow a direct path. But Fire Emblem is one where they start you off at one point, but then it's basically your decision where you want to go and where you want all these other characters to go to. Like, you're in control, and I think that's probably the biggest part of the charm about the game.
It's gonna be interesting for sure, but I guess back to Warriors. I don't know what else we can really say about it, because we had like a whole 15 seconds worth of gameplay that we got to see, and I think if you know the gameplay of other Warriors games, you're going to know what this is going to look like. So it's not going to be anything that's going to be too like crazy. I still think it's fan service, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do with it. I'm sure there's going to be a plethora of DLC, more DLC than you can shake a stick at. And I'm assuming eventually when the Corrin amiibo comes out, it will somehow be compatible with this, as all of the Legend of Zelda amiibo were compatible with Hyrule Warriors as well. So I'm curious to see how this goes. We are getting this game for the Nintendo Switch and for the 3DS. I wonder if they're going to call it like Fire Emblem Warriors Legends on the 3DS.
Yeah.
Like they did with Hyrule Warrior Legends, but I'm not sure.
With it being a simultaneous release, I don't think we'll see any sort of subtitle. I think it'll just be Fire Emblem Warriors, especially since they announced it for both platforms. If there was going to be a distinction, I think they would have made it. Yeah. That said, it does potentially raise the chance for them to do another complete packaged edition far down the road. So I wouldn't be too surprised if that happens.
Double dipping.
Right, but I mean, I got to pick it up day one. I will say that
for both. Sorry, really quick. Will you be getting it for both?
That's a tough one though. No,
yeah,
I mean
I'm really interested in that, because for me, I'd be more opted to get it for the 3DS because I'm crazy about the 3DS. But
well, I would say the same thing because I love my portable gaming, but with the Switch, that's kind of not a good argument, because I could theoretically play it in other places. So I might have to go more towards the Switch version, but you never know what'll happen. I could probably end up with both and then whatever extended edition comes out. So I wouldn't be too surprised.
If they do come out day and date on the same day, my guess is that it will offer some sort of cross compatibility between the two. I think Nintendo has been lacking that.
Yeah.
And this would be a really good start for that, because I mean, obviously we know that there's a rumored Pokemon game. I think that the game title was like Pokemon Stars that everybody thought it was going to be. I think that's BS. I have no idea what it's going to be called, but I think there's going to be some sort of cross compatibility between the Switch and the 3DS, at least to some extent, especially if Nintendo says it wants to keep it alive,
which it keeps stressing.
Like, it does.
I keep reading article after article about people who have had hands-on experience with the Switch so far, and a lot of them are stressing that they definitely cannot see the Switch replacing the handheld experience. So it's either Nintendo is going to follow up the handheld with a successor to the 3DS, or they're going to just decide to opt out of handhelds altogether and focus on the Switch and mobile. I hope that's not the case.
It's so difficult now that all three of their platforms now are mobile platforms. Like you have your mobile phone, you have 3DS, and you have a mobile console.
That's what's in right now. That's what's in. People want to be able to stop what they're doing and interact with real life and then pick it up where they left off.
I just hate to say this, and I don't mean any disrespect to you or any of the 3DS fans out there, but I don't think there's room for the 3DS in this new Nintendo world, and I think it's going to be gone within 2 years.
Every single time I've participated in a discussion with the rest of the Nintendo Wire team about the 3DS and what's going to happen to it, Jason just comes into the conversation.
I'm sorry.
And he's just like, it's the end. It's the end.
It's not the end. We have a couple years left. Nintendo said the same thing about the Game Boy. The DS is going to be a third pillar. Yeah. The Game Boy isn't going anywhere.
I'm not saying that the 3DS is going to...
2 years later.
I'm not saying the 3DS is going to be around forever, because obviously we had so many other types of systems. We had the DS, the DSi, DS Lite, and all of them leading up to the 3DS. So I'm thinking that Nintendo will continue the handheld experience with at least another system in the future.
2 years.
They projected till 2018.
That's
you're
2
not
years.
listening to a thing I say.
That's 2018.
You're not listening to a thing I say.
2 years. It's sad.
Let's move on.
We can move on. Hyrule Warriors. Fire Emblem Warriors launches sometime this year. Let's move on to the next one, folks. Fire Emblem is also coming to the 3DS in the form of...
which isn't going anywhere.
Which is never going anywhere
Thank
ever.
You. Thank
it's
you,
staying.
Ricky. I appreciate that.
In the form of Fire Emblem Echoes of Valentia. Also introduced were 2 new amiibo. We're going to get to that in a few moments. Again, we don't know jack about Fire Emblem for the most part. What I do know from the trailer is it looks a little bit more anime than other entries in the game did, especially with the 2 new characters that they introduced, Alm and... What's the last one? Alm and...
Celica.
Celica. Not like silica gel.
No.
Like silica gel that you find in your shoebox.
Or Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley. Silicon.
Anyway, it's Celica. Which is a beautiful name. It doesn't sound like any other word in the English or the human language.
The human language.
Human language.
I know it's a remake. There's a game called Fire Emblem. Is it Gaiden?
Yes, Fire Emblem Gaiden.
So I know that many members of our team have a huge crush on Fire Emblem Gaiden. They kind of hang it over the heads of everybody on Nintendo Wire, saying, I played this game. I am superior. I'm the superior Nintendo fan.
That's so true.
I'm not kidding. We have these conversations in our group chat.
So it's basically like you every day.
Mostly. Except I don't know anything about this series.
Yes.
But I understand it's a great game, and I understand the folks in the West have never had a chance to play it. And I guess, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Ricky, what do you think?
I think it's a good thing at this point. With Fire Emblem not having come over until the 2000s, people kind of didn't have to deal with the older games, which are rougher around the edges. And we even saw a different remake of the initial game in the series starring Marth, that was Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, came over on the DS. And it sold well, but it didn't bring out fans in droves like Awakening did when that came out. So definitely that was the point where we got people, which is why a lot of what I've seen for Echoes is much more in line with, first off, it's using assets from Fates and from Awakening, so it's going to look very similar to that, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially with it being a remake, and we're getting it just a year after Fates. So the fact that it's come out so quickly, I think, is a great thing, as I can always use more Fire Emblem in my life. That said, Gaiden is definitely a game in the series that doesn't have the same kind of rabid following as other ones do. It's notable less for any of that, and just if you've actually played it, it stands out. Think of it as the Zelda 2 of the Fire Emblem family, where it changed a lot of stuff. It changed a lot of stuff from the original game and took it in a new direction. And then afterwards, they kind of changed that stuff around, and it wasn't until much later on that we started seeing other things come in that were introduced back in Gaiden, including stuff that is very prevalent in Awakening and certain parts of Fates.
Yeah.
For example, the ability to grind in a way that kind of started with Gaiden, with more of an open world sort of feel to it. You could go around a world map, stop in on areas, and even go into dungeons, which is something that hasn't really shown up in any Fire Emblem game. It also gave way more options for promoting and classing your units, so you could have a lot more variety in your army's layout. You'd be able to specialize it and say, I really like this unit type. I can make this character into that unit type. And it also tells kind of a dual storyline, which is something that we also see now in Fates. So it's the right time for Gaiden to come to the West, I think, as, of course, Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia.
So these two new characters we're getting amiibo from, and I'm saying new because I honestly don't know, were these characters in Gaiden, or are these two brand new characters for the 3DS version?
These two characters were definitely in Gaiden. They were the driving force of the plot of that game. They are the lords for that game. And when you say that a character is a lord in Fire Emblem, that's basically the way to say they're kind of a big deal. So, in fact,
the name alone gave that away.
So you should call me Lord Amiibo Jason from this point on.
Sounds like my name a little bit.
Lord,
I guess that would be your class. But with Gaiden and with those two characters, that's actually the groundwork of the support system that would come into the series later. There was actually a feature where if you had them near to each other, they would have an increased chance of getting crits and they would perform better in battle. Now, it didn't have the conversations or the same kind of features that people would expect from the support system in current Fire Emblem games, though I'm sure we'll see those in Echoes.
Yeah.
But it was definitely the first instance of characters outside of the plot reacting with each other on the battlefield, which is now such a huge part of the games. So seeing that come back is, again, the right time. And those two characters in particular, while they're not, I would say, the most loved characters in the series by and large, they got DLC, they were DLC for Awakening, and they're going to be pushing them in full force if we're getting amiibo of them. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the updated story and the updated presentation does for them.
For you personally, how was it seeing these two characters that you were already familiar with being brought back to something so modern?
Oh, it was fantastic, though. As soon as the trailer started, I kind of knew that this is where they were going, because you see a little boy with green hair, a little girl with reddish hair, and they're sitting and talking about two gods in an argument. I'm like, no, they're doing Gaiden? What? So
are they brother and sister?
Yeah, they're brother and sister. I thought they were. That's what
they're
said.
Adopted brother and sister.
So can you do your eugenics thing with them?
Now, there wasn't any sort of eugenics thing. There wasn't any sort of eugenics thing in that game.
So this is going to be my cup of tea. This is going to be my jam.
You just wanted to get as weird as possible.
Any face petting in this game?
Yo, if you want it to be weird, you got to get this one. But as far as the face petting, no words on if that is coming back. But with how it kind of got tweaked for the localization, I don't know if we'll expect that in full force, but hey, you never know.
You never know. Region locking is dead, folks. Remember, if you can't get face petting here, you can always get it overseas.
That's a really good way to advertise it.
Amiibo Jason. All right, let's talk about something that Amiibo Jason knows about.
Why are you talking to the third person?
Because we're about to talk about mother flipping Amiibo, son.
Oh, he's gonna take over now.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
So I'm watching this trailer and I'm like, all right. No. I'm sure Ricky is over there like having a good time with this. Yeah. And then they show the Amiibos. I do want to point out on the last newscast, I said, and TJ, our good friend TJ, who's in chat right now, he was with us.
Are you gonna pat yourself on the back?
No, here? I'm a little disappointed in myself to be perfectly honest.
Good.
But at the same time, it was pretty darn close. Very nice, by the way.
Look at this. Ricky.
I predicted that we were going to see a Fire Emblem 2-pack, but I did say that it would be a Corrin and a male Corrin and a female Corrin 2-pack.
Yes, and I thought you'd be spot on with that.
I thought for sure.
Up on that one. Yeah.
However, I was right to a certain degree. We did see a Fire Emblem 2-pack in the form of these Fire Emblem Echoes amiibo. Very, very cool amiibo. I haven't said very, very cool yet in this podcast, so I'm excited that I get to say it right now.
I'm sure you'll say it at least one more time.
At least one more time. They are so well done, and I do want to point out, since this isn't the Amiibo Newscast, I have to shoehorn this in here right now.
Of course.
Amiibo are pretty much $15.99 now in the US. $12.99 Amiibo sound like they are dead. All of the new Zelda Amiibo are $15.99.
Yeah.
Except for the Guardian Amiibo, which is $20.
Which is understandable with its posability and the size of it.
Yeah. Even though these Amiibo are small, the detail on these Amiibo are insane. If you compare these two Amiibo, compare them against, like, let's say Marth.
Yes.
Or like the first gen Fire Emblem Amiibos that we had. These blow them out of the water. And yes, I understand these are concepts, but at the same time too, I wholeheartedly believe Nintendo is going to take your extra $3 and make these Amiibo a lot more worth your money. I know you can't see it right now on the screen, but they are actually standing on like a stony, rocky structure, and the base reflects that, which is super, super nice. The eyes and the face on the Amiibo are so nice. Even if you're not a Fire Emblem fan, if you are an Amiibo fan, these are worth a spot on your shelf. I can say that right now.
I feel like you're gonna be right about this one, because we've seen the natural progression of Amiibo and the quality behind the production of Amiibo over the last 2 years get increasingly better and better and better. And with the last 2 or 3 waves, you and I have constantly just complimented the quality behind the Amiibo. So I can definitely see this next wave, if you want to call it that, to be even better.
And I'm not sure what we're going to see next. I am expecting Corrin any week now. I'm expecting Cloud even sooner. I think Cloud is going to be announced, and I don't want to say this and get everybody riled up, but the 30th anniversary of Final Fantasy is in like a week. Like the big celebration is in Japan, and it's on the 31st.
Yeah.
I'm guessing we're going to see something about Cloud then. I'm guessing. Crossing my fingers. I'm more hoping than guessing. But I'm guessing we're going to see Corrin too. So I'm not sure how many more Fire Emblem Amiibo we're going to see on top of these two. But with Fire Emblem Warriors coming out, the room for expansion is great.
Yeah.
And Nintendo is not shy from double dipping on their characters. How many Links do we have? How many Marios do we have? We could see another Marth. We could see another Robin. We could see another Ike. The door is open.
Yes.
And I think we're going to see it. We have 2 brand new bases on these Amiibo too.
Yeah.
So that again opens the door for so many more possibilities.
Oh, you're so excited.
I am. It's one of the things that I feel like in the Nintendo community, I know Amiibo.
Yeah.
I was up at like 3 a.m. during the height of the Amiibo thing, like memorizing things and getting in-stock alerts out. I feel like I could probably name every Amiibo.
Oh,
if there was a gun to my head, I probably could survive it.
It's good to know.
So I'm excited to see these Amiibo coming. I'm going to be more excited when Corrin comes.
Yeah.
I'm going to be more excited when Cloud and Bayonetta come too.
I think you're just more excited about Corrin coming because it's something that you've been anticipating for so long. I think
it is. Yeah,
I really do, because not knowing Fire Emblem the way like Ricky does, I think it's just that you had your heart set on it so much right alongside Bayonetta and Cloud that you just really want to see it out there finally.
It's been over a year since they announced that they were in production.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we saw the first look at the Bayonetta amiibo. It was like that super close-up shot that we got, and that was just enough to get fans like super excited. And there is 2 CPSIA certificates out there right now from what kind of looks like the same kind of serial number, the item number that the Super Smash Brothers amiibos use.
Yeah.
So there is rumors at the moment that at least 2 Super Smash Brothers amiibo that we haven't seen yet are already somewhere in a warehouse, probably somewhere in China, getting ready to ship. I don't know when, but it's going to happen at some point.
So excited.
So, and when that day does come, the
Here we
Amiibo Newscast will come back.
We will make another return.
We've done that twice so far.
Have. Since the Nintendo Newscast started.
We will do it again.
Oh, yes.
The
Guaranteed.
Amiibo Newscast will return, folks. I promise you.
Yes.
I think that's it. I think that's my spiel. I get to shut up now about the Amiibo.
And you didn't have to cough.
I know. I'm proud of myself.
I'm so proud.
Ricky.
Yes.
What is your thoughts on these 2 brand new Fire Emblem amiibo? Number 1 and number 2. This is a question for both of you.
Oh yeah.
I'm curious to see what your hopes are for these amiibo in game and maybe in the future.
You know what? Honestly, I think Ricky's going to be able to tackle this one better than me because he's familiar with amiibo, but he's also a lot more familiar with what he would like to see as a fan in a Fire Emblem game. So you take it away, Ricky.
Will do. So one thing I would love to see first and foremost is an update to Fates. I want to see not just Alm and Celica be usable with that game. I want to see Roy become usable with it, and I'd like to see some kind of functionality for the eventual Corrin amiibo back in that game. It would just make it feel more complete in that respect. But moving on to Echoes, we really have no indication of what we can expect from amiibo functionality outside of what was done in Fates. So if they just lifted that wholesale, I wouldn't be too surprised or upset, but I want to see them do something more. But what that is, I'm not really sure yet. Maybe some kind of exclusive weapons, maybe their old designs in some respect. Not that those designs are anywhere near as detailed or as lovely as these newer ones, but some kind of incentive to really, really make these amiibo worth having, not just if you're an amiibo fan, but a Fire Emblem fan who might not be as into amiibo. Like, I want to see this bridge that gap. As for what we can expect for them, maybe in Fire Emblem Warriors, is the that kind of weapon functionality. Fire Emblem as a series has a long history of like more pronounced and exclusive weapons for the Lord characters. And to see that be reflected perhaps through the amiibo, whether it be an early unlock or just an exclusive feature, kind of like how the spinner was with Link back in Hyrule Warriors, would be, I think, a fitting use of those. But it also, like you said, right, it also opens the door for more characters to get that kind of spotlight. I mean, this could finally be Crom's chance to become an amiibo, and I think that that would be fantastic. Or some of the other kind of marquee lords getting that representation, whether it be through Warriors, or if this Echoes games does well enough, we could even see more remakes in the future. You never know. So,
and it surprises me so much that Fire Emblem went from like the brink of death to where it is now, to having like on every single system.
It was Awakening though. Awakening is what
Awakening.
Yeah, Awakening was, I believe there was like a leaked memo that said if Awakening doesn't do well, that Fire Emblem is dead in the West.
It was going to be the very, very last game, which is why it has so many callbacks to other elements of the series. They put in so much into that game, and it's why it stands out even amongst its more contemporary releases like Fates. So something about Awakening just absolutely nailed it at the right time. Like, it couldn't stay in stock. I was working at a game shop back at that time, and we got calls daily. Do you have Fire Emblem? Do you have Fire Emblem? I need Fire Emblem. That was the best time that we ever sold eShop cards, because everybody wanted Fire Emblem and they were willing to download it if they couldn't get a physical copy.
Wow, that's something I don't hear a lot of fans turning to, because they definitely want those hard copies instead.
Yes.
Yeah, I just remember living on the 3DS forums back on Reddit back when Fire Emblem Awakening was released, and everything was about Awakening. I couldn't get over it, and I wasn't familiar with the series at all at the time. So to find out that it was something that was kind of just rebooted in this new game is really cool.
I picked it up. I played it. Not very long.
Yeah.
It's again that kind of strategy game is just, it's not my cup of tea.
Too much mind power.
Oh, I knew you were gonna make a snide comment like that, Happily Candied. However, I'm gonna do my darndest to get into this, because we're going to be doing a stream for the mobile game when the mobile game comes out. So we're going to do our best to together learn as a couple.
We'll do it.
Through the power of eugenics.
You just want to do face petting.
Yeah.
That's all you're excited about.
But there you go. That's everything we know, at least at the moment. Happily Candied, any final thoughts as what you would like to see with these amiibo?
What I'd like to see? No, I just want to see Nintendo do something different with functionality. Add something more to it. Because in the past with, I think, the other Fire Emblem characters, I think it was somewhat of a letdown with the functionality that was offered with them, from what I remember. Is that correct? Either of you guys?
Yeah, well, it was somewhat... They were a bit more limited in their functionality when it came to Fates, and they also weren't as prominent with other games, just with how niche that Fire Emblem was kind of more at that time. But as it's been growing, I think we can expect a better turnout and more when it comes to the functionality to expect, just because now there is that following. There's going to be a mobile game now. There is a collectible card game now. There's so much more Fire Emblem out in the wild that they can't really afford to be half-hearted with the functionality with the amiibo.
Yeah. So I want to see them offer multiple ways to use the amiibo in the game, and I want to see that not just with these, but for future amiibo too, because right now I think that they were kind of testing the waters with a lot of amiibo up until now, and we've seen some interesting usability out of it, but at the same time I don't think that we've seen everything that amiibo have to offer. So all I want is multiple use, and I'd like to see that it used from device to device if possible.
As long as it's not going to be something where it's like Hyrule Warriors kind of did it crappy to a certain extent. I mean, yes, you got to unlock certain weapons like the extremely overpowered spinner. I blasted through that game with the spinner. But it's not like I don't want to get like in-game currency or something. By far the worst, and I'm just going to say this right now, the worst use of an amiibo of all time ever was Shulk in the 3D remake of Xenoblade Chronicles. It was bad. It's like you got in-game currency that like did next to flipping nothing. It was so terrible. I did a video of what it did. It's like a 10-second video. I'm like, boop. So bad.
Were you when you were filming that? Were you unaware at the time?
I had no idea what it did.
Oh, you had no idea.
There was no other videos online.
Oh, well, that's it.
I'm like, I know it does something. It's like you got 100 coins.
Oh, woohoo! That is disappointing.
But there you have it. We have one more thing to talk about with Fire Emblem, but I do want to just let you guys know, for those watching, we have more amiibo news to cover tonight too. I'm extremely excited to talk about even more amiibo
That's
stuff.
shocking. It's shocking.
And not just 2 amiibo, 90 amiibo.
Oh my god.
90 flippin' amiibo.
Stay
Magic.
We haven't seen this type of amiibo release since, I don't know. Animal Crossing.
Oh, don't.
I'm going to bring up Animal Crossing. I'll bring it up again later. But let's move on to the next topic first.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have one more thing to talk about tonight, and that is the Fire Emblem mobile game. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about what that's going to look like. Bada boom. Look at this sweet graphic. Oh yeah,
beautiful.
Look at that. I cut like the top of an iPhone off, put it on the screen. Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.
There you have it. We have a Fire Emblem mobile game coming out. Again, this is coming out to iOS and Android.
Yeah.
This is going to be something that I'm guessing Fire Emblem fans are gonna lose their cookies over. I was gonna say something else.
I would say mines. You could say mines.
There is in-game currency. There is ways that you can spend money in this game. So that being said, it's not like Super Mario Run. You don't pay $10 for it, and you get the entire game. So I'm curious to see our die-hard fans like Ricky and our friend Bobby and Ben, all of our friends that love Fire Emblem, how much money they're going to spend in this game. Because I have a feeling it's going to be bad.
Yeah. Are you getting your pockets? Are you getting your pockets ready, Ricky?
So I am proud to say that I have never thrown money at any sort of mobile game microtransactions in the past, but seeing this and knowing which characters are going to be in it, and if they have some kind of event that makes it more likely to get a character that I really want, it's going to be like, my money, but my characters, I want it all. So, man, I don't know. This could be the one that breaks that streak. But that said, I'm feeling pretty confident, and I'm a patient person. I can make this work. Being a Fire Emblem fan, you have to be patient. So, it's definitely gonna be tempting, though.
I have spent money on microtransactions on certain games. Nothing crazy though. I never got into like those war games or Candy Crush or any of that hot garbage. I think it was Plants vs. Zombies that I spent money on. I spent like 99 cents on. And Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
I'm doing the math in my head right now.
Yeah.
And it's like that scene from Rain Man when he's like doing all the calculations, and I'm having the realization of what I might have spent on Pokemon Go, and what I might spend in the future when Gen 2 comes out. It's bad. Yeah. It's bad. But again, thank God I'm not a huge fan of Fire Emblem, because I'm going to do my best to make it through this game without spending any money. And again, there was a new game that just came out, Pokemon Duel. Again, microtransactions are in that. But Nintendo and the Pokemon Company, actually I think it was just the Pokemon Company, they stated you do not have to spend any money in this game to get to the end. However, it's going to be really slow.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to wait for, pieces to respawn.
With me, it's not speeding up the game. With me, it's all the little the pieces of flair that you get to add to it. It's for me. I'm gonna be honest here. I've stressed this before. I'm not a mobile game player.
Yeah.
So I can honestly say that I have not poured a lot of money into mobile games. But when it comes to PC play, I have honestly spent thousands of dollars in the past throughout my life, ever since I was a teenager. on different things. And a lot of it is very decorative. A lot of it is not to advance me in the game in any way, because I like grinding. I like knowing that I'm working towards getting something, even if it takes a long time. So I really don't mind it taking longer. But when it comes to making things pretty, or when it comes to interacting with others, I like to know that I look good doing it.
As long as it's not going to be pay to win, and that's the big thing. Obviously, if you spend more money, you're going to get better. Probably better characters, better weapons, the whole thing. But at the same time, too, if I can still have a good time without spending any money, by all means, I'll do that. I am the kind of guy who, and a lot of people weren't. I'm the kind of guy who applauded Nintendo for the $10 for Super Mario Run, because it was just one time. I don't have to wait. I don't have to have like a little toad coming on screen going like, "Hey, gotta wait 10 minutes," or like to play the next level. And that's my daughter is sleeping in her bedroom, and I don't want to do my super loud toad voice. Idea. So, disclaimer.
Yes.
Why my toad kind of sounded like he was.
It's okay. But I've got to say though that I felt that your opinion and your reasoning for the payment behind Super Mario Run, it carried more weight than a lot of other people, because a lot of other people rush to say the day or the week of release that they didn't agree with it. You actually played through the entire game. And because of that, I felt that you really understood the lengths that Nintendo went to make the game fleshed out, and you knew every single corner of the game, whereas other people didn't even wait or didn't even try to reach those corners themselves.
I mean, I think I have 7,000 toads right now, so I'm not even maxed out on toads. I've spent at least 50 hours in Super Mario Run, and I'm having a blast. TJ and Jackson are powerhouses in that game, by the way.
They're amazing. But I have to say, I do believe Jackson beat out everybody with all of his toads.
By the way, I think it's really funny looking in chat right now. People are like, Jason has a kid? Yeah, surprise.
Really? Because you mentioned her pretty consistently.
She's 4 now.
She's 4.
4 years old, showing my age. Look at the gray, folks.
She looks like she's like 6, though.
It's insane. Seriously, it's the coolest thing ever.
My age.
Let me tell you, if you're a Nintendo fan, have kids.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't do that right now. Don't do that right now. But if you're a Nintendo fan, there's nothing cooler than watching your kid grow up and start to be interested in the things you're interested in. And I know this isn't Fire Emblem related. It's still it's a good anecdote.
Yeah.
My 4-year-old loves Zelda.
Yeah.
We played through Twilight Princess HD
She likes
together.
Animal Crossing even more,
She does.
She does.
But she knows all the characters in Zelda. Yeah. She knows Link. She knows Princess Zelda. She knows Midna. We're starting to play the Wind Waker. Oh my God, is it a cool experience.
Yeah. I think the best part about it is you and I know the same thing happens with me. You get to relive that experience of what it was like learning about video games through somebody else.
Very true.
And I think that's the most exciting part.
I can't wait for Eva to do the face petting one day.
That's gonna be... God, stop. Okay, we're drawing the line right there. This is enough.
Okay, folks. There you go. That's enough of the parenting with Amiibo Jason.
Yes.
That's going to be a totally different podcast.
Oh, good.
We'll get there one day.
Yeah.
I already know there's a podcast called Nintendo Dads, and they're like a bunch of dads who do Nintendo stuff. Really cool podcast, by the way. But back to Fire Emblem Mobile. Ricky, my man, what are your thoughts?
Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on Fire Emblem Heroes? Do you think, because I've seen the in-game look of it, and it definitely has that look, but it feels a little bit more chibi. Compared to a lot of other Fire Emblem games that I've seen. It definitely has that mobile look to it, but as, again, a lifelong Fire Emblem fan, what is your thoughts on that?
I'm excited just on the basis of how much representation we're getting, because this is going to be the first time so many of these characters are going to be shown in any sort of American or localized way. Like, there's a whole breadth of Fire Emblem games that just have not gotten a chance to shine in the West. And even if it's just in some small part, at least we're going to get to know a bit more about them thanks to this game.
Yeah.
Not to mention, it's going to be returning favorites from the earlier ones, because let's be honest, a lot of the pre-release and a lot of the fandom at this point is occupied with the likes of Awakening and Fates, which is understandable, but there's still a place for these ones that came out back on the Game Boy Advance, or the ones that start Ike on the GameCube and the Wii. So it's going to give a second chance or a third chance or however many chances, even a first chance, to so many of these characters. And there are a ton of characters, which is what they're banking on with that banking money humor with the microtransactions. It's going to be one of those things where you're going to realize like, oh man, I can get my girl Nino right now, but I got to spend maybe $1. So that's the kind of format they're going for, and they know people are going to go for that. But as far as the gameplay itself, that is less, I think, less crucial overall with how they're marketing the game because they are leaning heavily on the character aspect. But the gameplay itself, it's going to be a stripped down version of Fire Emblem. I'm not expecting the same level of tactical depth, and that's okay. But the fact that it's still going to be like a Fire Emblem light, but it's going to be more of a greatest hits crossover when it comes to the cast, that's the part that appeals most to me. How long it can hold me is going to depend on how readily I can get access to those characters without money and how engaging the gameplay is. But as far as pre-release and just getting excited, I am very excited.
Well, you're what, 5 days away from this thing coming out. I'm not overly excited for this. I'm more excited for Animal Crossing mobile to come out.
Oh, me too.
Yes.
Which they still promised we'd get by the end of March, but they technically promised it would be out by last year, so they could push it back again if they'd want to.
I'm wondering if we're going to get a separate direct for that or something.
I'm guessing we are.
I think they're going to have to be able to give us more details in a more organized way rather than just kind of like spitting it out here and there.
I think that game's going to end up coming out, and it's going to be something that's going to sync up with the full version that's going to come out for the Switch eventually. That's nice. My thought. But again, I like getting off topic so much.
So much. You're so good at it.
But I'm definitely going to pick this up. I'm going to do my best not to spend too much money. I'm going to reach out to my friends on my Twitter account and obviously the Fire Emblem experts on our team so they can help me through this process the best I can because I do want to be ready for the upcoming Fire Emblem Switch game that they announced. We have no idea what it is. We don't really even technically have a logo. We just know that it's coming sometime in 2018. So I do want to be prepared for that. So I'm kind of curious on that front because we've already kind of exhausted everything there is to say about the mobile game anyway, because we don't know what it's going to be entirely until it launches.
Yeah.
However, I do really want to know as far as what you guys would both like to see for the Switch version of Fire Emblem. Do you want to see an overhaul of the battle system? Do you want to see an overhaul of the graphical system? Because obviously the Switch is the Switch. It can run Unreal Engine 4. I don't know how well. But it's a full-fledged console experience. It's not a mobile or a handheld experience.
Yeah.
Well, it is in a way.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be the first console. This is the first console Fire Emblem that we've gotten in a very long time since the Wii. So those games definitely went with more of a 3D feel with the character models, with the world map and everything. And while I love the classic sprites, I think it would be great to see what they could do with the increased processing power that we're going to be expecting with the Switch. In particular, I think even if they kept some kind of sprite-based look for the maps, there have been games that have used sprites in HD that are fantastic. But when it comes to the battle, I want to see something closer to, like, I don't know, maybe the cutscenes from Awakening, which might be a little too daunting. But if they could even come close to that look and do it consistently on this HD platform, that would be really cool. It would also, I think, give them a better chance to tell a longer and more engaging core story versus having it be more tied to the characters and their growth. Yeah. So to have like a big multi-continent kind of like Game of Thrones-X conflict, like I want to see that come to a Fire Emblem game, especially in this day and age where it has such a larger following than it did back when, say, Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn came out, because while those games have fans, they are some of the lower selling ones in the series just because I think it was poor timing. So a modern and HD console Fire Emblem on the Switch, I think, is going to be the stuff of dreams, especially if they can come up with a way to integrate amiibo really well, and if they maybe even have some kind of way to integrate the mobile game, like you were saying, for a potential Animal Crossing. That would be really interesting.
I think we're going to see some insane things from Nintendo coming up in the next few months. I really do. Nintendo Directs, I think, are going to come back in full force. I think we're going to get more information on Animal Crossing and whatever this new Fire Emblem is, and hopefully Corrin.
I mean, we had 2 major directs in less than, like, what was it, 2 weeks? I mean, because it was the Switch, and then I think it was the following week, then it was Fire Emblem. Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that they pumped out that many, and both of them were hefty with information and news. So, I really think you're right about that. I think we're going to see a lot more directs, and I hope that's right, too. And I also hope we see a lot more live presentations.
Smash Bros. Direct, next one. I'm promising you.
Oh, yes.
Even though I almost overpromise and underdelivers, so just keep that in mind, folks.
Guaranteed.
That's going to do it for our Fire Emblem portion of tonight's newscast. Thank God, because we get to move into something that I actually know what we're talking about.
But Ricky's sad, I'm sure.
And that's mother flippin' Mario Sports. So we have a new Mario Sports game coming out. We've known this for quite some time, but there is some new pieces of information regarding this particular title. What?
You're so excited. I know you are.
I'm excited, but at the same time, too, I am counting how much money I'm going to have to spend to do what I need to do to collect all of these new amiibo. There are a total of 90 new amiibo coming to Mario Sports Superstars for the 3DS. And it comes out in March, so it's coming up really quickly. And that's right when I have to like refill my bank account from the onslaught from the Switch launch. And now they're telling me that there's 90 cards in a blind type of fashion, so they're booster packs. 5 cards per pack. Again, you can do the math. I will not be able to get like, let's say 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Okay, how many is that? So that's 10, and then 18 packs. I'm not going to be able to pick up 18 packs of amiibo cards and get all of them. It's not going to happen.
Now, this is where I must talk about what I briefly mentioned before, and that's the Animal Crossing cards that we saw. This is not the first time we've seen the cards. No. And the Animal Crossing cards, even though they came out in waves, we saw, I believe, 400 of those.
Yep.
So
I know how much money we spent on those too.
Yes, and technically, we don't even have a complete collection of those yet. We're still missing a couple.
Because we gave up.
We didn't give up. I just slowed down because I'm like, I have to start saving money and put it towards something else.
Do I really need another dog amiibo? Do I really need another bunny villager?
I'm a completionist when it comes to Animal Crossing collectibles, and that, especially, I have these binders that are incomplete, and it bugs me.
We do have a complete Series 1 and Series 2. At least I think we do.
No, we don't.
Well, at least Series 1.
At least Series 1, yes. But Series 2, it is not complete yet.
Welcome Amiibo, we're not even close. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so this isn't the first time that we're seeing the cards, and I think that with the cards or the series, the Mario Sports series, I guess branching out to characters that are very loved, and I would say so. I think we'll see a new crowd of people want to collect these.
One of the things I think that Nintendo has been missing from these collectible cards is that there's no real rarity to any of these.
Yeah.
It's just like luck of the draw. And that's what I think Nintendo needs to do. They need to go the route of Pokemon cards, and they need to have like a Mario rookie card like in here. Like imagine like no mustache Mario with an old baseball bat. Like, yes, I will buy 1 million packs of cards to get that stupid no mustache Mario card in a heartbeat. Like, this is marketing 101.
Yeah.
Nintendo, hire me. I'll make you so much money.
Let me get a reverse hollow Waluigi now, please.
A secret rare Waluigi.
Yes.
Can you imagine how popular
Glow in
that would be?
Glow in the dark
Glow in
blue card.
But for the love of God,
It's gonna happen.
Make them rare.
Make them collectible. Like it's not just collectible having them. It's knowing that there's a rarity and there's a hierarchy of cards.
Yeah. Well, here they are. They're on the screen right now of what they look like. Here's what we know. Every character will have 5 cards.
Yes.
Based on all 5 games that are in Mario Sports. The cards will essentially unlock like a superpower mode. Like they call it the superstar mode.
Yep.
The card art is okay. It's not anything that I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
I think it's very crisp. It's modern, clear. It's visually pretty.
They look like baseball cards, but my biggest complaint is I would have liked to see like more like real baseball card stats on here. Like imagine like real sports cards.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
But it's cool. A lot of people have already mentioned that they're reusing the art from these cards. So, take that as you will, as you may. I mean, I don't really care if they're reusing art.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying they're going to have to render brand new characters. My favorite one is they took DDR Bowser.
Yeah.
Like a render from like Bowser from DDR Mario Mix on the GameCube. And they essentially just threw that render in front of a soccer goal. So he's now going from dancing Bowser to goalkeeper Bowser, which is innovative.
It is.
Somebody got a bonus for that one.
Well, what was it? It was, I think for Color Splash, someone noticed that they took a very old render of Mario and the characters from a SpaghettiOs can.
Yes.
And
No, it was for Mario Party.
That was it. And they applied it to, it was just the placeholder box art. It wasn't the official box art. But somebody pointed it out on, I think it was Reddit, and it was really interesting to see how Nintendo recycled the images like that.
Super SpaghettiO Brothers.
Yep.
But I mean, obviously, Mario Sports is. I mean, it's Mario Sports. It's nothing like majorly to write home about. 90 cards, I think, is going to be a lot for a lot of people to ask, to ask of a lot of people. However, I'm going to do my best to try to collect all of these. I'm hoping we can find groups of people who want to trade. I'm actually thinking about setting up like a trading group on Nintendo Wire. So we'll see how that goes at some point too. Ricky Berg, you're in Japan. I haven't seen any advertisements for the amiibo cards in Japan yet. Any word? Is it the same thing? Same price?
I haven't seen anything either. If they were to come out, though, I imagine that they would be, if it's still 5 per pack, it would be 500 yen, which is basically the conversion that you would expect.
Yeah.
Nothing as far as promotions or anything like that, because there were Japan-only promotional Animal Crossing amiibo cards, for example. So I haven't heard anything about anything like that for the Mario Sports cards. That said, I'll be keeping an ear to the ground on it because I'm definitely excited. This is kind of bringing back the feel of baseball cards, which were a thing that existed before Pokemon cards.
For the kids. For the kids watching.
Right. You could get these cards and they would have baseball players. Imagine that. And here we are now with,
and they'd give you the cards too.
How retro.
It was great. And now we've got Mario playing baseball on a card. It's like, oh man, bring the two worlds together. But with that in mind, I don't think the turnout for these is going to be as fervent as, say, the Animal Crossing ones or
in Japan.
Like that. In Japan, yeah. I think Animal Crossing lends itself more to the collectability, but with the Mario characters, they're loved here. They really are. And it's going to be interesting, though, to see because of the kind of the sports nature of it. Yeah. I mean, baseball is huge here, but I've never heard one person ever mention, boy, I sure do love equestrian. So we'll see what happens.
I think custom amiibo artists are going to be all over these, only because, I mean, we have characters like Birdo in the game, which have no official amiibo at this point. I've seen many custom Birdo amiibos. I think we're going to see a Birdo amiibo card. I don't see why. I don't know why we wouldn't. Yeah. But people could just transplant the chip from this and put it into like a custom Birdo amiibo. So I think there's going to be room for like at least artists to do really cool things with these. But that being said, I'm excited. Happily Candied, I know you're excited.
I am, because this is going to add at least 5 more cards to my Peach collection.
At least 5.
And
you're going to need like doubles and triplicates of these.
Oh, absolutely. It's like Pico and Meringue from the Animal Crossing series. I have multiples of those. In fact, I want a whole book of each one. That'd be so exciting. So just imagine a whole book of all these Peach cards. I'm all about that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
But either way, these are coming out in March. Europe gets it before we do. Yep. We get it, I think, at the very tail end of March. Yeah. So again, if you have spent your entire nest egg on the Switch accessories, video games, special editions, things like that, save a little bit more so you can pick up some of these awesome cards. Yeah. However, we did just have the release, at least in Japan, of the best amiibo ever anyway, which is Poochie.
Let me show. Oh, there's the Poochie. Okay, this is the best view, I think, when you see his face.
So
he's so great.
Poochie is out in Japan already. He comes with Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World. We got this one from Amazon Japan. If you guys aren't familiar, Amazon Japan has a completely like US site. Like English is built in to Amazon Japan, and they ship it to you like in 2 days. Like there's standard. She's licking me with the Poochie, by the way. The standard shipping for Amazon Japan, I get it faster than most packages in the States.
That's true.
So I got the notification that Poochie shipped on a Wednesday, and I had it by Friday. So can't go wrong with that.
Can't go wrong with that. This is definitely going to be my favorite amiibo of the entire year. I can't wait. I already had a custom done on Etsy that was knit or crocheted. Yeah. And but this one, I like putting them side by side because they are very different looking.
It's very adorable.
The quality on it is just as nice as the yarn Yoshis, so you can expect that for sure.
I think that's it, at least on this subject of the 90 amiibo cards. There's not a lot more to talk about, again, except for how much money we're going to end up spending on these things. If you guys are curious, if you guys would like to see like a trading card group, any kind of event, just let us know. Leave us a message on our website or on Twitter, even in the comments here, if it's something that you guys would be interested in, because it would be really something cool for us to set up for you guys. We also have our collection tracker over at NintendoWire.com. We're going to be adding all of these amiibo cards to our collection tracker, so if you want to easily track what cards you have, what cards you need, you'll be able to do that. Again, if you go to our website, under the tools section, you'll find our amiibo database. That's where you're going to be able to find it.
Just make sure to sign up for an account on NintendoWire.com first, and then you'll be able to keep track of, I believe, both your wish list and also your collections.
Yeah, it's super easy.
Yeah.
So that actually covers our main content for the evening. However, we do get to go into some questions. Earlier in the day, I did ask our friends on Twitter and on Facebook if they had any questions for us this evening, and we did get some responses.
Yay.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
So I'm going to refresh the page to see if we have anything new, and we do.
Ooh.
Super fun. And we're going to go through some of these questions. Ricky, are you ready?
I am ready.
Excellent.
Happily Candid, are you ready for the questions?
I am so ready.
Hopefully these questions are all age appropriate for our audience.
You will review them.
Oh no, I don't
briefly.
believe in reviewing things.
Huh.
So, hi guys, it's Ashley. Ashley's really cool. We actually know her from Twitter.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you a few questions, if you guys, if they haven't been answered yet. When Fire Emblem Heroes comes out, what character will each of you really want on your team? That's one question.
Oh.
I'm gonna let Ricky answer that first.
So
What's your dream character?
So this ties into who I've been voting for most on the Choose Your Legends series. I definitely would like to see. I would like to get Tharja because that's one of my favorite characters from Awakening. But I would be very happy with Nino, who's a little magic user girl from the very first Fire Emblem that came to the West, and that game has always been probably my favorite in the series that I've played. There's a lot of characters to choose from, but those two are the ones. I really like the magic users in the series. So
awesome. I actually think there's actually a question specifically for you.
Oh,
so I think
I wanted to mention something.
You can go ahead.
What? Okay. I mentioned this earlier in the newscast, though, and I'm like, you and I have stated numerous times already that we do not know Fire Emblem. Yeah, but I wanted to get more familiar with some of the characters because over the last week or so, ever since the Fire Emblem Direct aired, our team has gone a little Fire Emblem crazy, and just like we changed all of our avatars to represent ourselves for Color Splash, we've also changed our avatars to Fire Emblem characters. And I had to ask the team, I'm like, okay, I'm so unfamiliar with this. You guys are experts. Who do you think I would relate to? So I got a bunch of suggestions, and then I spent like a couple hours on on Fire Emblem wikis reading the biographies of characters.
She really did.
To make sure that my avatar for our team chat would really represent me. In the end, I chose Noe. I believe that's how you pronounce it, Ricky?
That's correct. Yes, Noe.
Yes, and I ended up going with her. I liked her backstory and everything. So if I had to vote for one for Choose Your Legends, it would definitely be Noe, because I saw the biography. I'm like, yep, that's me.
I picked Corrin just because of the amiibo.
I knew it.
There you go.
That's it. Easy peasy.
That's it. I'm a simple man with simple needs.
Simple man.
Question number 2 is actually, I'm not even sure if TJ's in chat still. Will there be more me v me fights in the future? If TJ is in chat, if he wants to answer that. If he's gone, we'll have to get you an answer for that later. But the third question is, this is for Lauren. Do you think there's a possibility for Animal Crossing game to come to the Switch? If so, what would you like to see in it?
I absolutely do think that an Animal Crossing game will be coming to the Switch. I think that Nintendo is going to want to see all of its major franchises on the Switch, and I think that within the first year, even if we don't get a release for an Animal Crossing game, I think that we're definitely going to get wind of it, and we may get some details here and there until finally we get a full-out direct that contains information about it. If so, let's see, what would you like to see in it? I personally believe that the transformation and the evolution of Animal Crossing from the very first game on the GameCube to the newest one, well, and I'm not counting Happy Home Designer right now. I feel like that branched off, so I'm talking about New Leaf. I thought it was a beautiful transformation, and I truly believe that New Leaf is exactly what I always wanted in an Animal Crossing game. It made so many improvements, and a lot of them were very small tweaks. But they were noticeable for any long-time players of Animal Crossing. It made things so much easier. I mean, I can't tell you how much I love knowing that I didn't have to fill each slot in my inventory with only one apple at a time. And so knowing that I could fill these with like tons of baskets full of fruit was just incredible. I would like to see Nintendo expand more on that. I'd also like to see amiibo functionality brought to the Switch version too.
Very similar to like New Leaf.
What? Yes. Very.
Which like slam dunked it, by the way.
Exactly. I would like to see something similar to that, but I want to know that these cards and then the actual figures themselves, that we can use them a little bit more and be more creative. I think Nintendo has the capacity to be a lot more creative when it comes to amiibo functionality, and we could definitely see that with 400 cards and however many figures that we have for Animal Crossing characters. It's doable. So that's definitely something that I would like to see in the new Animal Crossing game.
Is that all?
There's so much more. I could do a whole newscast on my own without you here, talking about everything I'd like to see and hope to see.
All right.
But yes, that's it.
Ashley, thank you very much for all three of your
much.
questions. This next one comes from Nicholas. Hi, all. I was wondering, since, thanks to your Twitter updates, I pre-ordered a Switch today.
Oh,
that's very awesome. I'm happy that we could help you with that.
Congratulations.
How do I help my roommate nail one down, too? Well, follow us. That's one thing. We have page alerts set up to every single retailer. And not just like little page alerts that like blast a loud sound effect like directly into my ear all hours of the day, all hours of the night. And that's how I generally find out when things go in stock. For the most part, I can get things within 2 minutes. Yeah. If I'm at my computer, I can get stuff within like 30 seconds. And that's what I think today, the Switch went up in stock for 3.5 minutes.
Honestly, Jason can save you both the terror of hearing alarms and he can save you the frustration. If you honestly simply follow @NinWire, you will get the updates as soon as Jason knows about them.
It was a lot like that with Amiibo News. It was absolutely insane. Especially, I think we have the luxury right now of placeholders, where Amazon like puts up placeholders like for like the Switch or for new Amiibo, and you can easily track those pages. Yeah. But back in the Amiibo days, it would just be like, we're throwing it up at 3:30 in the morning. It's like bada bing, bada boom. 5 minutes later, it's gone. So it's a lot harder to track it back then. Mm-hmm. So for the most part, it's easier now. My biggest suggestion would be setting us to like Twitter notifications, and that's the easiest way that you're going to get notified. So
and we're not crazy when it comes to tweets. We don't tweet out every single little detail. It's either articles with information we find is relevant and important for Nintendo fans, or it's stock alerts that Jason is on top of. He is more than a pro. So you can rely on him for that.
That's my lot in life. I'm a simple in-stock man.
You're a simple man.
I'm a simple man with simple Nintendo needs.
How beneficial for everybody else.
This next one comes from, I think his name is Clark. It's a long question, and I'm going to go through a lot of it because it's actually pretty cool. Okay. Since most people like myself will only be buying Zelda at launch, as others don't particularly interest me, what is your next big first-party game coming this spring or summer, not named, that you think will be announced next by Nintendo? It's a longer question, but I think that's a really good point. Games that haven't been announced yet, my biggest guess is the thing that's going to like sell the most consoles is Super Smash Brothers for the Switch. And I'm guessing it's going to be a remaster or a like definitive version of the Wii U version.
Okay.
My biggest guess is we're going to see new characters, we're going to see new amiibo. That's where we're going to see it.
Yeah.
I am thinking that's going to be announced probably before summer.
Okay.
And if I had to guess, they would probably wait for Corrin, Bayonetta, and Cloud.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping we still might get Cloud during that Final Fantasy event. Yeah. I know it's a stretch, but it might happen. Yeah. I really hope it does. So
it's a good answer.
Hopefully that answers your question. Ricky, what about you? Is there any like major first-party games that you think that haven't been announced yet that you would like to see? That's not Luigi's Mansion 3.
Well, this is the part of the podcast where I give my obligatory support to the Kirby franchise because I would absolutely love a Kirby game to show up. But if I'm being truthful with what I think will happen next, I'm going to go into Lauren's corner here and say it's going to be Animal Crossing. Yep. I honestly think that should be one of their priorities. It's huge here in Japan. It's huge all over the world. And with the mobile game coming out, that's only going to increase. So they're going to want to time that just as well as they have with Fire Emblem here.
Yeah, I think their best bets are going to be Smash and Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
I think both of them are equally as likely to be announced, and I think that we are definitely going to hear about both series within the next couple months for sure, even if we don't get a release, obviously right away. But yeah, definitely both of them for sure.
And I know it's not first party technically, but Bayonetta 3, bring it on. I'll buy that all day long, man.
Yeah, I believe that.
Bayonetta 2 is one of my favorite games of the Wii U, hands down.
Yeah.
So, Bayonetta amiibo. We have one from Lady Draco. What do you guys think? Why do you guys think Nintendo released the Fire Emblem 2-pack first instead of Corrin? Is it to keep the fans occupied as they prep for the big unveil of Smash Brothers? I think that's definitely an option.
Yeah. That's kind of what your last answer led into a little bit, too.
It did.
Yeah.
I honestly think that Nintendo knows that a game that has amiibo would probably sell better. And because amiibo are so popular, they are so collectible. And even though, yes, the hype has died down, it's still pretty crazy to see like the fan response from these two new Fire Emblem amiibo. So I think that's one of the reasons why I honestly think that we're going to see Corrin sooner rather than later. So I've kind of said it way too many times anyway. I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that?
No, you got it. You covered all the bases.
Yeah, nailed it. But I'm definitely think that just the timing of the game's release and how quick the turnaround is what leads to us getting Alm and Celica first. That's really it. So just we're waiting for some kind of big news that's going to be tied to Smash for them to say, also, by the way, check out this Corrin. So we'll see.
Finally, we have one more question from Jennifer Birch. Jennifer Birch is
hi, Jennifer.
One of our very good friends.
On Twitter. It's always great hearing from her.
So she has a few questions. We're going to go through at least a few for her. Obligatory amiibo question. I love those. So Nintendo hasn't fully updated their CPSIA pages. Again, if you guys don't know what CPSIA is, it is Nintendo's product safety page. It's where all the new amiibo get either announced or leaked. That's how we knew about the Fire Emblem 2-pack.
Yep.
That's how I accurately predicted. Almost accurately. It was very close.
Very good.
So she wants to know that there was these two CPSIA certificates, and we touched on this a little bit, what they could possibly be. We're looking at a Fire Emblem line. What Fire Emblem Warrior is a few quarters away? Hang on, I'm just reading through this real quick. What do you think we'll see the next additions in the Fire Emblem Warriors line? And I think we've touched on this a little bit, Ricky. What are your main hopes for amiibo, like physical amiibo figures in Fire Emblem Warriors?
Well, since he seems to be the poster boy for it at this point, I think a Chrom amiibo would be the most likely. Maybe an updated Marth, though with there being an existing one, I don't know how high the demand would be for that. And then the rest of it really depends on what other characters we see added. And based off of just what we know from those few, those orbs that I mentioned earlier, maybe those characters, which again would be Ryoma, Xander, and then we already have Chrom mentioned, Marth and Corrin. Past that, though, it's really up in the air. I mean, if this leads to me getting a Hector amiibo, I'll take it, but you never know what'll happen.
I think Ben in chat is going to agree with you on that very, very much. Anything about Hector.
You know it. Hector's the male character that I'm supporting most for Fire Emblem Heroes, so you know that I'm right there with you, Ben.
She has technically two other questions. We're going to answer one of them because I'm actually super happy she asked this. Yeah. Because it makes you think. And I have another fan theory on this too. Okay. Regarding Super Bomberman R, she wants to know what her thought is, our thought is on a potential amiibo line for Bomberman. And I have a theory on this because Bomberman is such a weird game to launch a Nintendo console with, especially when there's only 5 games. Obviously, Konami is jumping on the train. It's nice to see the third-party support. I believe wholeheartedly that we are going to see Bomberman in Smash. I think he would fit perfectly. Yeah, he would. Yeah. I think he is a character that transcends consoles. Yeah. He's been around forever. There's been so many fantastic Bomberman games on Nintendo consoles. He would be a perfect shoe-in. Konami lost their representation in Smash with losing Snake. Yeah. And with kind of how Kojima and Konami split ways. And from what I understand, the whole reason that Snake was in Smash was like a personal favor to Kojima. Okay. I don't think we're going to see Snake back. And I actually talked to some of our team members about this today.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe we'd see Snake back,
Yeah.
but for that reason, I don't think we're going to see Snake back. So I think Bomberman might be the segue into Smash.
Yeah.
Like the segue for Konami to make its way back into Smash. Might be one of the reasons why we're seeing a new Bomberman game on the Switch at launch. It might be getting people ready for, Bomberman announcement for, Smash. So I do think we might see a Bomberman amiibo soon. I think the first one we see is going to be a Smash one. That's my theory.
I'd like to hear your thoughts, Ricky.
I would be all about that. Back before Brawl, there was every schoolyard discussion was, yo, who would you think would be in a new Smash Bros? Who you think's going to be in a new Smash Bros? And part of that, my two were always Meta Knight, which eventually came true.
Yep.
True, yeah.
And Bomberman, because Bomberman games are probably some of the best multiplayer fun that you can do. These are from Hudson Soft, the people that made Mario Party what Mario Party is.
Yeah.
They know multiplayer. So... like, I've got a copy of Super Bomberman 5 sitting on my table over there, which never came out in America. That was one of the first Super Famicom games I bought when I came out here. I love me some Bomberman. So I am all for that.
You were the person who was most excited, I'm guessing, when we were watching the Direct. And I know that people in our chat were, like, freaking out over Bomberman. I think you might have been the leader of that, but I'm not sure.
It was... I remember saying, yo... If they say 8-player multiplayer, I am getting this game.
Okay, I
sure
remember
enough,
that.
they said 8-player multiplayer, and I know Matthew said same. I know Britton's mentioned being interested in it. I'm pretty sure all of us are like, "Yo, let's play some Bomberman."
Well,
I have floated this idea so many times. If we can get the whole team together one of these days, be it in person or thanks to this one online, we can have some whole Nintendo Wire team Bomberman action. That is the dream. So
Man, I wish I had some
bring it
Bomberman
on.
footage to put on the screen right now.
I know.
Didn't even think that far ahead.
Yeah.
I'm going to show my age a little bit more, too, with this. I had Bomberman on my TI-83 calculator.
Woo!
It was a hacked version.
Oh, the days of
and
high school.
So if you guys don't know this, it's a graphing calculator. It's still used today, but it had a link cable, and you could like link it to another calculator and play multiplayer Bomberman. That's how we spent study hall back in the day, back before everybody had mobile phones, like the cool kids did. One kid in my study hall had a Wonder Swan, which is like, and I actually luckily have the prop here. This is the Final Fantasy Wonder Swan color.
Wasn't he the one who inspired you to get that?
He did. Ever since I saw him playing the Wonder Swan, he was playing Final Fantasy. I'm like, yo, are you playing Final Fantasy on a handheld? It's like, yeah, man, Wonder Swan, Japan. And I'm like,
you must have flipped.
I'm like, can I touch it? He's like, no. Who are you? Get out of here. He was like 2 years ahead of me too.
Oh, no wonder.
I'm like this wide-eyed freshman, like, wow, mister, color screen.
He was an adorable little freshman.
Oh,
Whoa,
gee whiz, mister.
nice graphics.
Wow. Gotta tighten up them graphics.
You mean you haven't played it yet?
But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to close out another episode of the Nintendo Newscast. Before we go, I do want to give a very special thank you to our announcer, Jared Rutledge. This guy has been doing the intro to our podcast now for nearly 50 episodes. We're on episode 15 of the Nintendo Newscast, but we did a lot more of the Amiibo Newscast. He has been there since day one. Fun fact about Jared, when he found out I was doing a podcast, he's like, hey, I do a Smash voice. He's like, if you want to hear it. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. Like, I had no idea who this guy was.
Yeah.
He sent it to me over email, and he played it. And I played it. He sounds just like the Smash announcer.
Oh, it's so impressive.
Like, I was jaw on the floor like, dude, I love you. I want you to do the voice of this podcast.
And he's so nice. He's the nicest person.
Meeting Jared at E3 was awesome. And to hear him do the voice live when we recorded, that was a real treat. So shout out to you, man. Thank you.
We're going to have him on the newscast again very soon. And again, we're going to try to get as many of our team members back to E3 again this year as we can.
We'll be able to meet up with everyone because I know everybody I spoke with went through the drawl after we left. And it was extremely hard being with basically your Nintendo family and then just breaking apart. It's very difficult.
If you guys are looking for any information on him, or if you want to, let's say, contact him for any kind of commission work, you can find him on Twitter at Jared_Rutledge. It's at JARED_RUTLEDGE. I'll be putting a link in the description once we upload this video up for repeat players, so you can find it there. Again, the guy, he's tops.
Yes, he is. And I'd also like to give another thank you to Ben Frazzetti, who has been modding chat the entire night. Thank you so much, Ben. We love everything you do, everything you contribute to Nintendo Wire, and thank you for modding. And also a huge shout out to TJ, who has been here the majority of the time too.
Love you, TJ.
Keeping things in line.
TJ!
We're all big TJ fans. I mean, even people who haven't met him are big TJ fans. So
we couldn't do the channel without TJ. His content is so flipping amazing.
So good. If you haven't checked it out, you have to now.
Even the intro, like the awesome intro that we have for the newscast. Yeah, that one. It is so awesome, and he spent so much time doing that for us, and we could not do it without him. Personally, I think we are going to have this amazing relationship for a long time with this channel. If you guys don't subscribe already to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. We have so much content coming, not just from us, but from our friend TJ too.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, and then again, before we go into like seeing where we can find all of us, I just want to point out one more time, if you do not already subscribe to us on iTunes, you can do that easily. You can go to if you have an iPhone, you can just click the podcast app, you can search for us, and then you can subscribe right from there. We are looking for people that enjoy our podcast to leave us reviews on our iTunes page. We have very few reviews, and we have a lot of listeners. I think right now we have 8 reviews.
Okay.
If we could get some more, it would really help boost our ranking on iTunes. We would love you forever. So again, go to iTunes, search for the Nintendo Newscast, and you can find it there, and you can leave your review for us to see. So again, please.
Yes.
And thank you.
And thank you.
Where can we find you, Ricky? Ricky, where can we find you besides, obviously, at Nintendo Wire?
Yes. Well, Nintendo Wire aside, you can find me on Twitter at Dr. Saturn NW. That is at Dr. Saturn NW. And mostly I just kind of throw out stuff, my own observations that are a bit more personal than what we throw up on the website, as well as pictures from around Japan, usually stuff from the Pokemon Center, or anything else I find that's really cool gaming-wise. So if you like seeing what you see on there at a glance, pretty sure you'll like what I bring out in the future. And I will definitely be talking about Fire Emblem Heroes on there. So if you're a fan of Fire Emblem, give me a like, give me a follow, give me all that good stuff, and I'll be happy to give you more.
Awesome.
We love you, Ricky.
We love you.
Happily Candied.
And I love you.
What about you? Where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Happily Candied. And if you want to get to know me even more and all my photography and all my personal tales of toys and games, head on over to my sugary corner of the world, also known as happilycandied.com. The link is in my Twitter description, so feel free to pop over there, click the link, and you'll be directed to a land of sweetness.
And you can find me on my personal Twitter page. That's at Amiibo Jason. You can also find me at NintendoWire.com and the newly launched PlayStationWire.com. We have the amazing Tom Brown, who is actually helping run that site. He is absolutely amazing.
He is. He's a managing editor for PlayStation Wire.
So if you are a PlayStation fan, you can head over to PlayStationWire.com or follow us on Twitter at PlayStationWire. And obviously, you can find me at Amiibo News, my first love, my first little baby. So
passion project.
It's still going strong, and with all these new Amiibo, I think it's going to go strong for some time.
Yeah.
So again, thank you everybody for tuning in to another live episode of the Nintendo Newscast. We're going to be back next week with an incredibly special guest. We've had them on the podcast once before. I'm not going to ruin who it is, but it's going to be a very cool episode all about The Legend of Zelda. So stay tuned for that, and have a good morning or a good evening, depending on when you're listening or watching this. And we'll see you very, very soon.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.
Guys.
Thanks again. See ya. We good? We clear?